has so many ideas that would be a deviation of what I was planning to share while you were speaking about team sports. I was inspired. I share only one. So yesterday, today actually in Israel, and the reason I say yesterday is because I don't know what you did yesterday night. I usually don't watch TV, and I don't do social media in Shabbat. And I try to use my phone very minimalistically, and I broke all those rules last night because I was watching live how the four Tatzpitaniot, the four female Israeli soldiers that were kidnapped, and we still have one more, were released. And there was a huge rumor about one of them being dead, Daniela. Everybody thought that she was gone. And the night that rumor emerged, the mothers of all the rest of that specific group went to the house of Daniela's mom, and they spent the night together. And they cried all night. And they said, we know nothing. We only know a rumor. And we've been speaking for many, many months about not losing hope and how difficult it is to keep hope, and how difficult it is to stand up and to keep hope when you are alone, rather than when you have a team around you. So the team showed up for her, and the man said, we actually know nothing. We only have a rumor that was sent by Hamas, so we can't necessarily trust that. And when Daniela came out on her feet yesterday, it was very, very moving. And the decision that the mom made that morning was that she was going to keep advocating as if her daughter was alive. And the reason that she said is because she felt that she had a very strong team around her that could help her to get through that. So teams show up in very different situations, in many situations, and sometimes with surprising results in real time. And in this case, the team couldn't predict the outcome or the result, but thank God for that outcome. Now, let's change topics. So there's this woman that wakes up in the morning and says to her husband, "You will not believe what I dreamed about." He said, "Well, tell me." And she said, "Well, I dreamed that for my birthday, you brought me a bracelet and a necklace and a ring and earrings. What do you think that means?" And her husband says, okay, wait for your birthday. Wait for your birthday. And so the birthday comes, and he shows up with the box, and she opens the box, and what is in there? A book. How to interpret dreams. Now, we sometimes just don't get it. Like you think that the other side or the other person is understanding you, or it will be a straightforward understanding. And it's not necessarily that way. I came across a little experiment with a professor making his students hear cheering in the public and giving them different sentences while hearing that cheering. And they put that online, and so you can participate in your home in the experiment, and every single time that you are reading a different sentence, that's what you are hearing. So let me make this very clear. The sound doesn't change. The words change, and what we understand completely changes. It's just different every single time. Meaning that what we hear most of the time are our own perceptions. We think we hear, but we actually are hearing our own perceptions. Now, this Torah portion, Parshat Va-eira, it's a lot about perception. And it's about show and tell, right? Va-eira is to show, to present something. And it is in the context of God presenting itself to Moshe, but it's also in the context of Moses needing to present himself in front of two complicated entities, to call it them somehow. One is Pharaoh. Like the king, I always like to translate that Mitzrayim in Hebrew, Egypt in Hebrew, Mitzrayim comes from the word tsar, narrow, and Pharaoh is the king of narrowness, a short-sighted leader. So he needs to go and talk to Pharaoh, who we read and we learn has hardened his heart. First, he did it for himself, and then God does that. Maybe that's the way of nature. And he also needs to talk to the children of Israel. Now, have you met us? Like, good luck to Moshe, right? Like, Moshe needs to go and make a pitch to the people of Israel to actually having them engaging with him and trying to leave Egypt. Verse 12, chapter 6, verse 12 of the book of Shemot, of Exodus says, Moses spoke before God, saying, behold, the children of Israel have not listened to me. Like, shocking. How then shall Pharaoh listen to me? Like, these are not going to listen to me. This guy is not going to listen to me. What do you want me to do? And says the Sfat Emet, the Hasidic commentator, the previous verse, however, states the reason that the children of Israel did not listen to Moses because of their anguish of spirit and their cruel bondage. So they were kind of justified. Why then did Moshe deduce, the Sfat Emet asked, so if there was a reason, and the reason was sadness for the children of Israel, why did Moshe deduce that this was going to be true also for Pharaoh? But Moses knew that the power of a leader derives from his people. If he had not succeeded in penetrating their hearts of the children of Israel, he would not be able to achieve anything on their behalf. So his point is this. He had no chance with Pharaoh. Yeah. So he had no chance. I hope it wasn't my phone, actually. He had no chance with Pharaoh because this was about penetrating hearts. And you cannot penetrate Pharaoh's heart if you haven't been able to first penetrate the heart of the people of Israel. So the question is, how do we penetrate the heart? Like, how do we change people's minds? How do we help people actually to hear what's actually communicated? How do we get the husband to get what his wife is trying to tell him? How do we do all those things? This particularly telling in this time, as we are in a transition of power, and many people feel that they have nothing to tell or they cannot engage with the other political side. If you are a Democrat or if you hold on to certain values, that are, I don't know, a variety of values, let's call it this way, it's very difficult to feel that there's a space for conversation when you might feel that you are being governed by executive orders. It's true for any government, almost any government that enters power, but it's an overwhelming experience. It's an experience in which you feel that everything is lost, that there is no space for dialogue. So you know what happens to our hearts when we feel that way. We harden our hearts. And the moment that we harden our hearts is game over. There's no space for change from that place. There's no perspective for redemption in that space. If you were following the executive orders and they were overwhelming to you, and that's the only thing you were able to see this week, we have a problem. We have a real problem, not only with the real consequences of these executive orders, but we have a problem with our ability to navigate our path through these agreements. This is true also for Israel right now. In whatever side of the political spectrum you are, if what's coming from the other side is overwhelming you, and that's the only thing you can see, we have a problem, because the outcome of that experience is always harder in your heart. So the question is, once again, how we penetrate someone else's heart, how we achieve peace. We are going to be having a conversation here at Shir Hadash with a Palestinian activist next week. And we'll try to deal with that question. How do we build peace when our hearts, and I admit my heart, has been hardened? It's harsh right now. Now, do you like skiing? Okay, I hate it. Now I know that I hate it because I tried like a couple of weeks ago. It was a total disaster. But I heard something very wise that I think that if you are into skiing, you probably know. And it's that fantastic thing that happens when you see someone skiing and swinging between trees. It's based on this idea that you are not supposed to focus on the tree. You're not supposed to look at the tree. If you're looking at the tree, you're going to crash. If the only thing you can see is the tree, finita la comedia, you are grilled. And the reason is because you are not focusing on the path. If you focus on the snow, if you stick to the path, then you can swing within the trees. You can make your path through. I want to say that the same thing is for us right now with the obstacles that we are experiencing in our lives. If we want to soften our hearts, we need to stick to the path. We cannot only focus, we shouldn't ignore the obstacles. We focus on the path because we recognize the obstacles. But if we are obsessively looking at the obstacles, it will make it for our hearts being harder and harder, and for us to crash, all of us at once. So let's learn from the example of our people and the king of narrowness, and let's try to gather the ability and the focus to see the path and to be able, by means of doing that, to make it through the obstacles. Shabbat Shalom.